Water, the liquid essence of life, of health, of well-being. We enjoy it, we use it, but our bodies absolutely need it. In fact, daily, it is the most important substance that we put in or on our bodies, whether we drink it, wash our hair in it, or bathe in it. Our body's ability to perform at its best is utterly dependent upon water. It nourishes our cells, and experts now agree that drinking and bathing in clean, safe water is truly crucial to optimal health and vitality. Experts also agree that the age of our skin is directly related to how much moisture our skin retains. The more clean, healthy water our skin absorbs, the softer, the younger our skin will be. However, it is well documented that today our water sources are polluted with thousands of harmful toxic chemicals. Even more alarming, there are chemicals we purposefully put into our water, such as chlorine, the primary disinfectant utilized in water treatment, and one specifically designed to destroy living organic matter. But wait, aren't we also living organic matter? Is it any wonder then that drinking and bathing in chlorinated tap water has been shown to increase cancer rates by 93%, and even threaten the health of pregnant mothers and their unborn babies? The health risks associated with breathing in the deceptively soothing mist of a hot shower are very real. Numerous studies show that our bodies absorb over 600% more contaminants in one 10-minute hot shower than if we drank the same water all day long. And knowing we all want to look our best, it is important to understand that these same contaminants also lead to unnecessary and even accelerated aging of the skin. These chemicals damage our DNA and strip the natural protective oils from skin and hair, causing dramatic loss of moisture and excess dryness. In a world where our own health is at risk in a simple shower and accelerated aging results, a solution is needed.
New worries tonight about the safety of America's water supply. In the first nationwide investigation of its kind, the Associated Press found that at least 41 million of us are drinking water that contains traces of prescription drugs. And now many are wondering, is our water safe? Here's Nancy Cordes.
The Associated Press investigation reveals that nearly every drinking water supply in the country that's been tested for pharmaceuticals tested positive. 24 major metropolitan areas from coast to coast. What turned up? Trace amounts of everything from sex hormones to drugs for livestock, anti-seizure medications, prescription painkillers, even the antidepressant ingredient in Prozac.
How many water suppliers that you spoke to actually filter out pharmaceuticals?
Virtually no water supplier we talk to will claim or can claim to entirely filter out pharmaceuticals because the treatment systems aren't designed to filter out pharmaceuticals.
In Philadelphia, for example, scientists detected 63 different pharmaceuticals in the untreated watershed and 56 in the drinking water. Just a handful had been eliminated by filtration.
The EPA doesn't yet even require water providers to test for them.
Prescriptions have risen by 13% in the past 5 years to 3.8 billion a year, and Americans buy nearly as many non-prescription drugs. It all gets flushed through our bodies and into the water supply.
We are a medicalized society, and I think it's important for people to recognize the kind of public health implications of this kind of medicalization.
The concentration of drugs Americans are drinking is very low, like 1 part per billion.
If you took a sugar cube and dissolved it in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, that would be just about a part per billion. For many chemicals, it may not be something to be concerned about. For some chemicals, they're actually designed to be active at very low concentrations like that.
At the Stroud Water Research Center in Pennsylvania, they've examined links between waterborne drugs and the feminization of male fish.
Essentially, The aquatic organisms are being bathed in these compounds. So what does it mean when a human drinks water that is contaminated with these same mixtures for decades? It's really unknown.
If the risks are unclear, so are the solutions. Home filters aren't designed to remove all drugs, and bottled water often comes from the very same source as tap water. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, New York.
Where is your water coming from? Plastic bottles? The sink? Well, today you're going to learn a little bit about your water and why you need to install a Halo water filtration and conditioning system to protect your home and family and to save you money. Your tap water may contain chlorine, chloramines, and contaminants, which are negative in many ways. Contaminants may leave physical limescale damage and may also corrode your pipes. This is a chlorine test in an average home which does not have a Halo system. These drops make the chlorine visible in water. When the water is added to the test, you can immediately see the water turn yellow, indicating that there is chlorine in the water. This test shows that the chlorine is 5 parts per million. The ideal chlorine level for a swimming pool is 2 to 3 parts per million. There is more chlorine in this water than there is in an average swimming pool.
When we first moved into this area, our water tasted like a swimming pool and left white marks all over my dishes. So I checked out water softener systems, but I found out that the salt that they use is not only bad for my garden plants, it's horrible for my skin. Then I found out about Halo water systems. And after comparing the prices and the quality with other systems like that, I found out that they're just the best choice.
Now let's talk about bottled water. How much do you spend a year on bottled water? An average family of 4 spends close to $1,000 a year. However, when looking at bottled water, this should not be your only concern. At only 70 degrees, plastic bottles may start to leach harmful chemicals into the water. The bottles can reach up to 100 degrees while being transported and while sitting in front of the grocery store. Now, not only do you have to worry about ingesting these chemicals, you have to also consider what happens to your bottles after you throw them away. Our environment is the most important resource to human beings. You should always recycle, however most bottles do not even end up at a recycling plant and become pollutants which further contaminate our environment. Halo will protect your family as well as our planet. This is a 10-year water heater. As you see, the heater's anode rod in the middle of the screen is covered with scale and is no longer useful. The water heater needed to be replaced because it was leaking on one side. We cut open the water heater to find a definitive reason onto why the tank was leaking. What we found is an old anode rod that had decayed and was now resting against the leaking side. As you see, electrolysis has occurred and has been detrimental to the inside of the tank. There is also scale buildup on the unitrol valve and sediment resting on the bottom of the tank, which is reducing the tank's efficiency. Halo can reduce scale and extend the life of your water heater.
We care about our kids. That's why we have the Halo water system.
What's a Halo one?
Halo water systems will protect your home and your family. Invest in a Halo today. This water heater is 7 years old and has had no additional protection from rust, corrosion, and scale buildup. As you see, the heater's anode rod in the middle of the screen is covered with scale and is no longer useful. The water heater needed to be replaced because it was leaking on one side. We cut open the water heater to find a definitive reason unto why the tank was leaking. What we found is an old anode rod that had decayed and was now resting against the leaking side. As you see, electrolysis has occurred and has been detrimental to the inside of the tank. There is also scale buildup on the unitrol valve and sediment resting on the bottom of the tank, which is reducing the tank's efficiency. This water heater has had protection with a Halo 5-stage water purification system. The tank was manufactured in 2006. We are going to drain the water heater and remove it from the stand to see what kind of condition this water heater is in. The family moved in 2006, and shortly after, they installed a Halo 5 water purification water conditioning system. We are going to see what the condition of the tank is compared to the tank previously shown, which was about the same age and had no protection. We will look at the difference and see how Halo saves you money by dissolving scale and fighting it from coming back. As you see, the inside of the tank is lined with aragonite. The aragonite buildup protects the water heater from rust and corrosion. On the previous water heater, the tank was full of scale and was detrimental to the inside of the tank. However, as you see here, there isn't any scale due to the Halo water purification and conditioning system. This makes the tank look virtually brand new. This unitrol valve looks perfectly clean, meaning that it will read the temperature of the water correctly. This will prevent erratic readings and overfirings. Daniel Brandon of Halo Water Systems will now explain why aragonite is beneficial to your home.
We've already seen that this water heater, after 7 years of service, looks virtually brand new. It's entirely scale-free, and here's the reason. It's been connected to this Halo 5-stage whole house water treatment system for the last 7 years. Now we've got 4 stages of purification. That's easy to understand. That's about removing the contaminants, the chlorine, the chloramines, the lead, the heavy metals, the organic contaminants, tastes, smells. This is the secret sauce. This is the device that actually dissolves existing scale in your system, prevents any new scale from forming, and inhibits any further corrosion. You can see where it fits right in the center, embedded in the purification media of the Halo 5. What we have here is a cutaway of the same magnetic water conditioner that is the 5th stage in the Halo 5-stage system. What makes this magnet so special is it doesn't just have one north pole and one south pole, but actually has 2 additional poles on the same single bar magnet. What that does is creates 3 magnetic fields. And as the hard water passes through this conditioner, it takes those hard minerals that would normally form hard water scale, buildup, and corrosion, and actually causes them to stay suspended in the water so that they flow to wherever the water is flowing. Additionally, they're going to impart a thin layer of the aragonite talc that's going to form a protective barrier against any further corrosion. Let's take a look at another visualization of what's going on inside the conditioner. Here is the cutaway unit of the same magnetic water conditioner that is the 5th stage of the Halo 5. Here is a diagram of that same conditioner. Below, in this image, you can see this is an image of what the calcium and magnesium ions look like prior to treatment. You can see that the pluses and minuses are somewhat disorganized, and you know from elementary school that when you take a negative pole and you push it towards a positive pole, they're going to attract and want to form hard water scale. This image here shows the ionic charges of those same minerals after they've passed through our conditioner. And you can see that all of the ionic charges are aligned. And you can remember from that same elementary school, when you take 2 positive poles and you push them together, they repel each other. That's essentially what we're making happen with our magnetic water conditioner and treating the hard water. We're causing those hard minerals to, rather than want to aggregate and form scale, they're actually repelling each other and forming the aragonite talc. Aragonite is your friend. Why is it your friend? Because instead of allowing those hard minerals to form hard water scale and corrosion, we're using them to form a protective barrier that's actually going to protect your appliances, your fixtures, your plumbing from any of the hard water damage that would normally be caused. Here we've got a cutaway of the section of this water heater that we looked at earlier. And you can see that it's scale free, and in fact, in spots we've actually wiped away the aragonite layer. Here you can see, I'll just take my finger and wipe it along the surface, and it really is just a very thin, just a couple of molecules thick of this aragonite talc. That's why aragonite is your friend. Not only is it forming a protective barrier against scale and corrosion, it's made up of the calcium and magnesium, which is critical for human health. So in a very real sense, with the Halo 5, we're taking out the bad and we're leaving in the good, and we're protecting your home all at the same time. So to review, the Halo 5-stage water system is the premier whole house water treatment solution. It's got 5 stages of purification and conditioning. It treats all of the water throughout your house, requires 0 maintenance, is chemical free, and is WQA tested and certified.
Fluoride. Dentists say that drinking it can protect your teeth against cavities. Cities and towns all across the world actually dump it into the water supply, hoping to indiscriminately medicate the population through their tap water faucets. The official story on fluoride sounds wonderful. Drink the stuff and you won't get cavities, we're told. It's a nice story. But there's another side to this story, the side you're never told. And it starts with the astonishing but verifiable fact that nearly all the fluoride dripped into municipal water supplies isn't naturally occurring fluoride at all. In fact, it's actually a combination of hexafluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride. These 2 chemicals are considered highly toxic by the EPA. They're actually classified as hazardous waste, and when packaged for transportation, they must be labeled as poison and handled by workers wearing industrial safety gear. So, what are hexafluorosilicic acid and sodium silicofluoride, and where do they come from? That's the part of this story that you probably won't believe. That is, not until you check it out for yourself. Because the more you look into the mythology of fluoride, the more bizarre this story becomes. And this bizarre story begins at phosphate mining companies. Phosphate is an important mineral used in fertilizers. It's mined from natural rock deposits scattered across the world, and the phosphate rock is then refined to produce phosphoric acid. If that name sounds familiar, that's because it's one of the main ingredients in carbonated sodas, such as Coke and Pepsi. Phosphoric acid is often compared to battery acid. It's a highly acidic liquid that is believed to be the primary reason why drinking sodas can result in kidney stones and a loss of bone mineral density. Phosphate rock is also used to create fertilizers. The problem is phosphate is often contaminated with high levels of fluoride, as much as 40,000 parts per million, or up to 4% of the raw ore. To remove the fluoride, sulfuric acid is added to a wet slurry of phosphate and water. This causes the fluoride to vaporize, creating highly toxic gaseous compounds such as hydrogen fluoride and silicon tetrafluoride. These toxic fluoride chemicals used to be released directly from the smokestacks of phosphate mining operations, but the nearby farms suffered devastating losses of cattle and food crops, which withered away and died due to, guess what? Fluoride poisoning. In order to stop this environmental destruction, the phosphate mining industry put in place a way to capture the toxic fluoride chemical vapors so that they wouldn't be released into the air and kill the surrounding livestock and vegetation. This was accomplished by installing wet scrubbers that captured the toxic fluoride chemicals, preventing them from being released into the environment and killing the plant and animal life living nearby. It is from these wet scrubbers that toxic fluoride chemicals are now harvested. They're collected, repackaged, shipped to your local city, and then dumped into the municipal water supply. So instead of these toxic fluoride chemicals being released by the phosphate mining smokestacks, they are instead captured and then released into the water supply of large cities, where the chemicals then contaminate the water of millions of people at a time. This is called water fluoridation. When dentists and doctors say they support fluoride in the water supply, what they're really saying is that they support the mass poisoning of the population with a highly toxic hazardous waste product that, if it weren't dripped into the water supply, it would have to be disposed of as a highly toxic hazardous waste under strict EPA regulations. Curiously, it is a violation of federal law to dump hexafluorosilicic acid or sodium silicofluoride into the water. Such an act, in fact, is considered an act of terrorism. Yet it is mysteriously allowed today, as long as it is accompanied by a loosely justified claim that we're doing this to stop cavities. But setting aside for the moment the inconvenient truth that water fluoridation involves the illegal act of dumping hazardous waste into the water supply, there's another important question in all this. Do these toxic fluoride chemicals actually prevent cavities? Roughly 99% of the municipal water pumped through any given city never ends up in the mouths of the people. Most water is used for showering, washing dishes, washing clothes, watering yards, and filling pools. Almost none of the fluoride dripped into the water supply comes into contact with human teeth. It does, however, end up downstream, where it contaminates rivers, streams, and ultimately the oceans of our world. In this way, water fluoridation policies have become a convenient loophole through which the phosphate mining industry can dump its toxic waste byproducts into the environment without adhering to any EPA regulations whatsoever. Phosphate mining companies even turn a profit by selling their hazardous waste to cities, then labeling it fluoride, even though this name is scientifically inaccurate. All this raises an obvious question. If fluoride kills cows and crops and fish and is considered a hazardous waste chemical by the EPA, then how could it be healthy to ingest? And why don't doctors and dentists, even though they openly recommend fluoride, sometimes with irrational exuberance, know where fluoride really comes from? If dentists knew fluoride was derived from the chemical waste of the phosphate mining industry, would they still recommend that we consume it? The truth about fluoride is a lot like the truth about Enron, or Goldman Sachs, or every other shocking revelation that nobody believed until it suddenly became obvious that we were all being fooled for so long. Fluoride is a clever scheme where a hazardous waste chemical is dumped into the environment by passing it through the bodies of people first. We, the people, have become the toxic waste dump site of the phosphate mining industry, and chances are your local dentist fully supports this entire process. Over the last several decades, an astonishing 24 studies have established a statistical link between fluoride exposure and low IQs in children. One study conducted by the Center for Endemic Disease Control in China found that each additional milligram of fluoride detected in every liter of a child's urine was associated with a 0.59 point decrease in their IQ score. Another study found that fluoride exposure slashed the number of children achieving high IQs by more than 70%. It shouldn't be surprising, of course, to learn that consuming a hazardous chemical might impair brain function. Water fluoridation, it turns out, may be the root cause of the alarming drop in academic aptitude among children in first world nations. Historically speaking, the mathematics that were taught to 8th graders in the 1950s are now college-level courses in 2011. Maybe the reason why Johnny can't read or spell is because Johnny's been drinking too much fluoride. So I have 3 bits of advice for you. First, for your dental needs, always seek out a holistic dentist who understands the toxicity of fluoride and mercury. They will advise you not to drink toxic fluoride chemicals from your tap water. Secondly, don't drink unfiltered tap water. In addition to the toxic fluoride chemicals, tap water is also usually contaminated with chlorine and even dangerous elements from old water pipes. Buy a good countertop water filter from a company like Aquasana, or get a whole house filter to remove chlorine and fluoride from the water entering your home. Thirdly, help fight water fluoridation in your local city or town. If your city is like most cities, water fluoridation policies have been pushed by dentists and doctors who are technically ignorant of the origins and composition of fluoride, and yet they seek to assert power over the composition of your local water supply. They essentially attempt to mass medicate the entire population with what can only be called a drug, a biologically active chemical that they claim can prevent a health condition. And yet, has this drug called fluoride ever received FDA approval as a drug? Have the individual members of the population been individually assessed for their need for such a drug? Have medication doses and drug interactions been considered? Has anyone even been written a prescription for this drug? The answer is no. Fluoride is an unapproved drug being used in a highly illegal mass medication scheme that provides an excuse for the real agenda of disposing of a highly toxic hazardous waste chemical. It's time to stop fluoride. Demand an end to fluoridation in your local cities and towns. Call for those who purchase and handle fluoride to stop what they're doing. Question the safety of these toxic chemicals being dripped into the water supply. These are actions that endanger the public. They could be called acts of terrorism. And publicly shame the doctors and dentists who have taken part in this mass chemical poisoning, causing untold harm to populations all over the world. Help us stop the fluoride poisoning of our world. Learn more at naturalnews.com. Join the Facebook group No Fluoride. See more videos about fluoride at naturalnews.tv. Visit fluoridealert.org and other anti-fluoride websites that are working to end the fluoride poisoning. Together, with your help, we can end the era of fluoride in our world and protect our children from this industrial poison. Thank you for listening. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, reporting for naturalnews.com and the nonprofit Consumer Wellness Center.